It's seat cover time. The old seat cover is a little bit tired. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's an aftermarket seat cover that's been fitted by a previous owner at another time. There are some weird lumps and bumps in the foam underneath that I can feel here, and there's some pinholes and pock marks, almost like someone's had a cat that's had a go at it. Definitely not mine this time. And the Honda badge at the back is really grubby and faded, so it's not great. And underneath there's some more signs that need to be looked at. The stapling is terrible around the seat cover. It looks like it's been done with a office stapler, although I very much doubt it was. That's kind of what it looks like. And also one of the bolts that holds on the bracket at this side is sheared off at some point. So whilst it's still functional, it does flop about a bit, so it'll give me an opportunity to have a look and see what's going on there. It might give me an opportunity as well to clean up the base properly and just generally get it up together. The new seat cover has arrived. I discovered that this isn't a European size seat, it's a US style seat, which is slightly shorter. So I had to wait until the shorter seat cover was back in stock with a UK manufacturer who apparently makes it here in the UK. But anyway, the first job is to remove the old seat cover, which will be to go around and pull out these staples. I'll save you a lot of the pain of that. Okay, so I'm working my way around pulling the cover off, and it was all going well until I got to this back corner where, I don't know if you can see, when I got to this back corner where it appears that the previous owner, or a previous owner, has ground away part of the seat pan. Do not ask me why that has happened. So I suspect it might be the same at the other side. This could cause problems for me in a little while when it comes to recovering it, because it means it'll make it very difficult to make a nice neat edge to it. But we'll see. I'll plough on and we'll find out what we're stuck with. Every time I seem to do anything that the previous owner's been at, it ends up being a bit of a dog's breakfast. More great news. The seat, I haven't flipped it over yet or taken the cover off. The seat has definitely been modified back here for some reason, and again the same, it's been modified at this corner here. And if I turn it round, these front corners here also have got evidence of modification, and I, for the life of me, do not know why anybody would do that. You know, it's just the problem with old vehicles, I suppose, is they've had a life, but it does make you question the mentality of previous owners and why they would do this. But anyway, I shall take the cover off and see what the state of the foam is like underneath. I doubt it's going to be factory perfect. Oh, it doesn't look too bad. It's had a life. Someone's been at it with a carving knife and trimmed off, presumably, some discoloured foam like this. So yeah, so it's missing a top coating of foam. That could be built up again, that's not an issue. Some of this foam's a little bit rotten, but it's not beyond salvaging. I think of more concern to me at the moment is why anybody would have modified the actual seat pan. I don't know if it's worth looking for another seat, but I have to make sure that I get the shorter US style seat rather than the longer European seat, because I have a seat cover to fit this size. There are quite a lot of things about this seat pan I'm not liking right now. I'm not saying they're insurmountable, but it could be potentially a problem. I already mentioned that we had a snapped off stud on the left hand side there, which is one of the problems. That is what's left of the stud on the other side sticking through. We may be able to get that out one way or another, but the other side there seems to be a makeshift plate with with a couple of very rusty nuts on, which suggests there's a problem underlying there as well, which I haven't got into. The aforementioned cuts made to this particular seat pan is slightly concerning. At both the front, you can see the marker pen marks on there. But the next job is to see if I can take these brackets out and find out what is going on underneath that one in particular. Then I'm going to go and have a rummage on the internet and see if I can find a seat pan as a replacement. Okay, so here's the state we're at the moment. The bracket with one sheared bolt, I tried to remove the other bolt, and unsurprisingly that's sheared too. Although I don't think that's the end of the world. I think I can use my pillar drill and carefully drill out and then re-tap those. So that isn't too much of an issue, and that can be cleaned up and then repainted. No big deal. The other side, the one with the mystery plate and the extra nuts on it, again I suspected that that this had happened here previously, and lo and behold the previous owner has drilled out the seized bolts. However, instead of re-tapping them for either larger bolts or doing it carefully and being able to re-tap, they've just mullered through it and then mounted a plate behind it and then mounted nuts behind that. The other problem with this is it's, as you probably noted, quite corroded, and is actually quite a bit thinner than the other one. This one's in better condition. It's probably got a good ½ mil of material there. This one is wafer thin, so whilst it would still function, it's less than ideal. So it's all adding up to being possibly me trying to source a replacement seat pan. About a half hour's work, and I've managed to drill out the bolts that were seized in there, and then ran a tap through just to clean the threads up, and it seems to have done the trick. So that's what at least one plate saved. The other one has already been drilled out massively oversized, so it's a question of whether I really want to do an M8 in there, which is frankly going to be a bit too big, or whether I try and source another seat, which would sort out some of our problems. I have three options ahead of me. One is to cover the seat as it's been hacked about, but now that I know it's been hacked about, it's bleeding obvious and will always bug me. The fact is the seat will cut back this way, or does cut back this way, whereas it should follow the line of the tank. And the same at the rear, it should cut straight rather than coming down at an angle. So now that I'm aware that there's an issue with it, it's going to annoy the crap out of me. So option 2 is to try and source another US seat, which is 530 millimeters long, to fit the seat cover I've paid for. Or the third option is to get a UK seat, which are easier to get hold of, but see if the company I bought the seat cover off will exchange it for the longer version, so that I can recover one of those. I'll have a chat with them on Monday and see what they say, see if they're happy to do a switcheroo, in which case I'll probably see if I can fit the UK seat. And the other advantage of the UK seat, providing it fits, is that it will cover up slightly more of this back plastic, which means you don't get a bit of a gap, which means you don't see so much in here, I presume. Anyway, it's food for thought. It gives me something to worry about. Right, to try and cheer myself up and get on with something I can do, I cleaned and fitted the chain, which is looking nice. I also put the final drive guard on as well, although I suspect that'll probably come off again at some point. In other good news, the little XL250 got through our MOT again on Saturday, so that is legal for another year. So I think there's a few little bits and pieces I have to do on her this year. I noticed the headlight and tail light's quite dim when the lights are switched on. It's whether I've got a regulator issue or a bad earth, I'm not sure. But either way, it went through the MOT, but it's so dim you can barely see anything by it, so goodness knows how it passed.